didn't see the light of the day when female and male MPs divided themselves. Remember where they even brought things of marital rape, went to consent, during and after. You can't stop a vehicle when it has ignited. So we don't give such issues the due diligence it deserves. Maybe because one would say we are still in a somehow male-dominated, because I look at some of these. One time we had the marriage and divorce bill. Even the name was funny and fishy.
Yes.
By the end of the day, if you saw how people were analyzing issues, so still there is that bit of society has gotten somewhere.
We have normalized it as society. We actually think that domestic violence should be part of the system. Maybe we know that it is illegal. We know that it is wrong. We know that it shouldn't be done. And by the way, these cuts occurs for the men and the women. But somehow society has made it normal. Is that what you're trying to actually drive?
Yeah, somehow society has made it normal and not given it the attention it deserves. Even politicians haven't. Yes, we have some laws in place. For example, we have the Domestic Violence Act 2010. And its regulations that fall around 2011. We have policies on elimination of gender-based violence, that is 2016. Still, we have the Penal Code Act. These offenses that are committed are there. We have prohibition of, that is Female Genital Mutilation Act, 2009. So we have a number of laws.
Yes.
But even with these laws, why I'm saying that we've not given it the effort it deserves.
Yes.
I just want to take you back certain things that have seen the light of the day in Parliament and have been raised. Our poll question is regarding issues of Zake.
Yes.
Being impeached from being a Commissioner of Parliament. You see the swiftness, that desire. When we go to police, there are some cases, political crimes. You mentioned, remember, during campaigns, how you would see every police officer, deployment, government is putting in a lot of money. You know, there's some issues we see that it is a national concern. But domestic violence has been a bit of personalized. It is a family issue.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And of late, even police as the Child and Family Protection Unit, some of these issues, he beat me, he did this, unless there is severe harm, they will tell you, go to that unit. That unit will find a way of solving, you know.
Without having it to escalate.
To escalate. Because they'll tell you, you need to coexist, you have children here, you have all that. So for me, I believe the seriousness it deserves. Because if you have the laws in place, how effective are these laws? Though, also you have to look at other factors that maybe sometimes we don't see the law acting autonomous when it comes to these issues, but in one way or the other, kind of bench. You know, domestic violence is funny. That usually it happens between spouses.
Yes.
And given our setting in Uganda, where government has done much to ensure that women are empowered,
yes,
but still a very big percentage of women are not empowered.
Yes.
So they remain entirely dependent on the male. That is why at one time they'll tell her, if your husband is arrested, these children have to go to school. Are you going to find food for them? Are you going to find fees for them? Then they'll chill. That's why you find that in empowered women, for example, Philo, God forbid, I'm just going to use you as an example, my sister.
Please.
Don't feel offended. It is very hard if you gotten married to a man to be beaten day in, day out, because you're empowered.
Yes.
I think the person I remember, if my memory serves me right, and indeed it does, was a former vice president of Uganda who came up and said, my husband beats me, and we cannot continue. But if you remember what the church did then, those that remember, like for us, divorce is not our thing.
It's not something that we really subscribe to.
Because we say, until death, so usually this is escalating because the women that are not empowered,
yes,
they are solely dependent on these men. Take it on. And when you look at some of the factors, allow me to look at them, you find that first, poverty. There could be forms of violence in homes of people that have, but they may not cause physical violence all forms of violence, right from psychological,
yes.
And one would say psychological torture is a very big problem.
It's a very big problem because you see, you carry with it over time. It's not something that you're going to deal with right now, whether you are the woman, whether you're the man, whether even the children, because at the end of the day, everybody in this home is affected by this kind of violence. You carry it forward. You know, it keeps traumatizing you. Something that you don't want to live with trauma if you're the head of the family, if you're the mother, because all that projects on the children. So it is very major, even when we downplay it.
But mostly there you don't find bodily harm, which may be a woman is battered, beaten, loses an arm, loses a leg, and sometimes lose a life. That you may not find.
Yes.
But when you go to areas where the poverty-stricken, the slums, day in, day out, for them it is violence against women.
Yes.
These slums, and that is a physical violence, which may not find in Kororo, Nigeria, and all that. So poverty is one factor that is causing this to escalate day by day. Second, and I had to speak about the story you've told, that you've just been discussing, that is the Karamoja Affair.
Yes.
We have culture and customs. That in Karamoja, much of the work is upon women. The men provide security, take care of the cows and the goats.
Yes.
That is why right now, many of these men with cattle rustling, the drought, some have lost their cows, they'll wake up, go and look for their local blue,
yes,
then sit around and discuss issues of national importance.
Yes.
As they're sitting around around drinking, like enjoying,
sitting under trees, under the tree shades, and discussing issues that are not in any way related to.
We call them issues of national importance. because when you ask them, as men, even as men, we've been discussing some important things
yes,
for community. That is when, so because of poverty, they are coupled with culture.
Yes.
That to them, can you imagine the average age for marrying in Karamoja girls, that is 12 and 14?
Which is really not.
Yes. Definitely, that is that woman is going to be battered. This young 14, that is a child.
Now, would you actually, because looking at that age gap, 12 and 14, these are quite young children. And yes, I understand and I acknowledge that there are policies in place, there are laws in place to make sure that they condemn domestic violence. But now these things happen, they are more predominant in the rural settings, the rural areas, where actually we see that the statistics say quite a number of domestic violence acts are more prominent in these rural areas. Not that it doesn't happen in the urban areas, but no. So would you actually say that these people in these areas, in the rural areas, are very, I could say, ignorant of the law? They don't know what is there to protect them, so they let it happen. They're ignorant of the law. They don't know which law. They don't know that this is illegal. Maybe because of the cultural setting, the way they are raised, they believe that, well, if the man says this, I have to do it. If he deems it fit to batter me, then so be it. Do you think because of the ignorance of the law, that is why it's more prominent in the rural areas?
Actually, I want to commend our government that it's no longer ignorance of the law.
Yes.
I was in Karamoja about with a project called NUSAF about 6 years back.
Okay.
And this is what I found, that even when they are conducting these marriages, they're not doing them in open space, because they know these are illegal.
Yes.
There was a time we meet in the market. I bring this girl, I'm like, I've bought cows from you. Bride price was paid very tactfully, that even someone investigating, someone would say, bring the cows that
these are just shady arrangements.
So there is a way they do it, indicating that they know it is illegal. But culture supersedes. Because maybe they believe a girl between this age is maybe still a virgin.
Yes.
They believe that in their culture, this girl is still tameable. You know, you can tame. Don't go here. You can tame. Rather than when you get to a philo who is an independent woman. And even even in the modern day today,
yes,
many men would fear an independent woman. So there is so much attachment to young age and cultural belief. Then also, Philo, we must be very honest to tackle another issue, which is also religion. Religion.
Yes.
That when you have culture coupled with religion, and both support in one way or the other. Because there are some religions, there are some faith that believe this. That is why, one, they'll believe marrying off underage girls,
yes,
because maybe in their teaching, when they make calculations, one friend of mine in some faith I won't mention religion told me, by virtue of creation, when a woman begins a menstrual cycle, she's ripe again. She's ripe. You get it? So he told me, then opened the holy book and properly quoted for me and says this is evidence to that. There are religions, like I told you previously, that even when a marriage is so bad and domestic violence has become the meal,
yes,
all they'll still do is tell the woman, hang on, pray for your husband.
Yes.
Wake up at night, lay hands on him when he's sleeping. Cast out those demons. For us,
be patient.
Be patient. Go for counseling. You know? Many faiths do not. So culture and religion and poverty, those three factors. Ignorance, to me, I don't want to believe that it's still a problem, because there is so much government in terms of sensitization. There is so much civil society organization has done.
Yes.
There is so much, some good men of God in this country have honestly come out and openly tackled these two factors. The religious faith, where they tell you this is outdated. Yes, you may have your scriptures, but this is what we don't condone this. The religious leaders who have come up, but if only those three areas can be addressed,
yes,
I want to believe, and also above all, empower the women. This dependency syndrome, empower the women.
They should be able to, you know, actually find fend for themselves.
Fend for themselves.
They don't have any reason to hold into something that is not
and also,
ideal.
Much as men are also in one way that experience these forms of violence, but women are the most affected because of their vulnerability that they depend on this woman, on this man solely for their survival almost. Yes. So an empowered woman, they could be a bit of forms of domestic violence, but very few of these will occur when a woman is empowered. There is a way they know they can report, they can stand on their own, they can defend themselves, even if it is to go through the laws. They can have, because that justice system is very expensive, Philo.
Yes.
And not many people would see a case through. That is why you find that the police report will tell you that almost 70% of committers of domestic violence go scot-free.
Yes.
Because when they file a case, you begin running our judiciary, also very slow in one way or the other, you lose interest. Yet this person will say, a precedent was set, I can continue.
Well, we have a poll question running, and that is, what are your thoughts on Francis Zake's impeachment from the Parliamentary Commission? Now, some of you have actually started coming through the feedback, and from you, Tony Kent Chaze, you're saying, well, it shows maturity in our politics, if at all, amongst those that voted supporting his impeachment were opposition members. Oh, well. And coming in from Anthony Kamwesije is saying, opposing government should have nothing to do with using bad language, and neither does supporting it. All in all, leaders have got to remember that they should be responsible people and respectful, for they have a huge following that copies from the actions. Well, more feedback is still coming through, and of course, as Good Morning Uganda goes on, we'll be sharing. Now, as we come to the end of this discussion, Robert, what do you think? Okay, I understand all parties and stakeholders have tried to do something. We've seen the law try to do something. We've seen the civil society try to do something. But what more can we do? Do you feel like these are really, really tight enough to make sure we get rid of the domestic violence vice? Because I know it's not a vice that is going to go away just in a blink of an eye. But, you know, as we go on, we need to break this pattern. We need to break the escalation, because as you can see, as the years go by, the statistics are going higher and higher, which clearly says there's something not being done right.
First, I believe in the word precedents we set.
Yes.
Just like our poll question. Parliament set a precedent. Should any other member of Parliament or a commissioner, now they know that you can be impeached. The biggest problem has been that we've not implemented the law to the letter.
Yes.
So many people have done it, they will do it, and do it and do it and do it. Because they know that even when the laws are in place, they cannot hold,
Yes.
they cannot convict, they cannot sentence. So they'll continue doing it. That is one. Two, we must stand up to these two areas, culture and religion. We need cultural leaders, we need religious leaders to come up clearly and have this gospel. Like at the time of COVID-19, you remember?
Yes.
Where every opportunity they would get, have a mask, do this. We need a serious gospel against domestic violence. We need that. And finally, let's empower the girl child. Not in terms of taekwondo, like one said, go do train martial arts and hit back. No, but let's empower them, one, with education.
Yes.
Let's empower them economically so that they cannot be slaves in relationships where domestic violence is their daily meal.
Absolutely. And well, we do condemn domestic violence, like just Robert said. Empower the girl child, give them the capacity to be able to fend for themselves at all levels, and this really changes their state of mind. It changes the way they see things, the way they look at them, the way they interpret them, and also how they deal with situations like this. Nobody deserves to be abused in all formats, sexually and harassment of any sort. Even, by the way, psychological. This is for the women, for the girls, even for the men. Everybody deserves to be at peace with themselves, because it's a fundamental human right. You don't deserve to be abused. Well, that's just about it from the newsreel this morning. We'll be heading to the roads, and later on we'll be looking at what is happening in the climate. But also, just a few minutes from now, we'll be taking a look at what is happening in the papers. That is the New Vision, Daily Monitor, and of course Daily Nation. Much later on, it will be the GMU agenda and some updates from the world of sports. Ruben, good morning.
National Medical Stores is a government agency mandated to buy, store and distribute medicines and medical supplies to government health facilities in Uganda. For Ugandans that we serve, help us serve you better by taking your individual responsibilities seriously. Report theft of government medicines and medical supplies to the nearest police station or to the State House Health Monitoring Unit. Do not pay for any medicines or medical supplies labeled Government of Uganda, not for sale. Do all that is within your means to stop all preventable diseases, including COVID-19. Continue observing the Ministry of Health Standard Operating Procedures, SOPs, including wearing a face mask whenever you are in public spaces. Visit a designated health facility to receive your COVID-19 vaccination and a booster dose for those that are eligible. Prevention is better than cure. National Medical Stores, passionate about your life.
The thing goes clink, clink, clink. Woo.
Grab an ice-cold bottle of Pepsi Max today and drink to your bold lifestyle. Enjoy maximum taste
with no sugar.
now available at a shop near you.
Maximum taste, no sugar.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, good morning, Uganda News Review. We start off with Daily Monitor this morning, and right over there in the corner, Panorama, Karamoja in opposition as Zake loses house job. And of course, Healthy Living dispelling myths about heart disease. And in the bigger headline over there is how men and women will share the NSSF money. Of course, quite statistics are being put out there concerning the distribution of midterm access. And also, woman held for weeping priest during husband's burial. Well, Bahati launches seed schools in Kigezi as government rolls out drive. And yes, profiles of the two men appointed deputy directors of public prosecutions. And of course, we have the lizard corner over there when word of God angers man. The woman who was held, of course, for assaulting priest during man's burial. This is quite interesting. Added to the second page of the Daily Monitor, we look at the archives, and over there is an interesting picture of General Moses Ali, the second deputy prime minister, leaving a boxing ring in Kampala, of course, after giving a speech on October 9, 1997. And Army clears air on Muhoozi's status. If you want to know what they said, how and why, well, make sure you grab yourself a paper of the Daily Monitor. And also in history today, Sir Samuel Baker views Lake Albert.
Well, and on to the New Vision. The audit of schools exposes big gaps. Now, as many teachers still on payroll long after retirement. Oh, it's a big headline right there in the New Vision for today. It also shows you how you can raise capital, that is across the Harvest Money Export. But also RDC is told to file reports on land transaction. Now, this is in a bid to minimize the rampant land evictions. Now, that and more, get yourself a copy of the New Vision and have more stories on that. But also, Karamoja women visit President's farm. And the big picture right there showing Vice President Jessica Alupo with a group of women from the Karamoja region on the farm, and much more of that can also be seen in the New Vision. But also talks about the new curriculum that is right there on page 3, that is also being showcased, and opportunities, over 270 job offers in there, so that's, you might want to get yourself a copy and look into that. Health and beauty, how to fast for health benefits. Wow, that's a good one. Not just fasting, but you also get the health right there in the New Vision. And on to page 2, still talking about the audit that has exposed a lot of gaps in teachers still on payroll, but also looking more into today in history. Uganda-Sudan talks hit stalemate, and that was on the 14th of March 1997, but also a chemical weapon plant razed still today in history. You can have yourself a copy of the New Vision and have much more of those stories.
And in the Daily Monitor Sports, Rakataka claims Kaliro Sugar Rally, and bereft KCCA keep Vipers in fair lead. And also taking a look at the Premier League, this is how Havas eases Chelsea gloom. Well, Kai Struck led to seal a 1-0 win against Newcastle for troubled Chelsea yesterday. And you see your cannons of the MAC. And when you move on to the second page of the local sports, this is the Boxing Champions League. Nkobeza snatches lucky win. And also Kampala Queens down Cardinals. This is in the Women's Super League that happened over there on Saturday.
Well, on to the New Vision Sports. Also, the Association of Uganda University Sports is upbeat. Now, that is also off the mark. Much more of the sports there, the athletes that will be in the league, and still there, you will see that story in the New Vision Sports for today. But also inside is Japan boosts Cheptegei. Now, there is a story on page 2 about Cheptegei Foundation benefits from Japan. That and much more also shown in the New Vision Sports for today. Ready to advance our Commonwealth values. Now, will Uganda Open reach MKO's levels? Now, that is Uganda Golf Association also right there and looking into many players joining the sport once perceived as a rich man sports. Now that is also into the new vision right there. KCCA fails to catch up with leaders, that is Vipers SC. Now they give you a picture right there of one of Villa's Joseph Kafumbe left, and also Mogume from KCCA. Now there is a lot of sports looking at Mbogo spearheads table tennis talent search, and also giving you some of the pictures of the young talents coming up in Mbogo Kids. You get yourself a copy of the new vision and have much more of those details.
Well, that's quite interesting, especially that story where the woman had to beat the priest over, the burial of the husband. It's really sad. Well, taking a look at the Daily Nation, and we're looking at why Mudavadi must be Ruto's, of course, Daily Nation right there, and it's Uhuru versus Ruto. Now, this, by the way, is taking a toll, and Kenyans are really finding themselves being divided over the two. But yes, why Mudavadi must be Ruto's deputy. Now, there's a whole detailed story over there to make sure that you educate yourself about this and this decision 2022 over there. And also, Kalonzo Ngilu tried to derail my coalition talks with Raila. That is from Kenyatta. Added to the education sector, as KCSE starts, of course, leaders are worried that the dog Magoha will be out there to watch. Well, quite interesting. Get yourself this copy of the Daily Nation. You can grab it online, or you can choose to actually purchase it and get more of those stories. Now, getting into the poll question, more feedback coming in, and of course the question was concerning what are your thoughts on Francis Zake's impeachment from the Parliamentary Commission. And from you, Ojok Jimmy, you're saying, well, opposition, most especially NUP, has to exhibit maturity and respect for each other. Majority of their supporters are so abusive and indisciplined. You can't take state power by abusing others. Right from top leadership to the ordinary party members have to work on their discipline. Wow. And Aaron Gisha is saying they want to be leaders, yet even the simplest of behavior, respect, has nothing to do with them. Well, keep the feedback flowing in. Of course, we'll be sharing it with you as time goes by. But yes, taking a look at the traffic updates this morning. It's a Monday morning, and the rains were quite actually very intense. And well, you know what that means. It means some sections of the roads, especially in Kampala, are going to be flooded, and you know how that eventually affects any road user. Definitely is going to be delayed. So if you're going to access the city center, or if you intend to get there as early as you can, well, I don't really have kind words for you or any words of hope, apart from being very patient. As you can tell right now, we see the green lines, the red lines, the orange lines. Now, while you see the red lines, it shows that the traffic is very crazy. Now, when it comes from red to maroon, that is clearly a no-go area for you, unless you have chosen to be patient and you have come to terms with the fact that that is the only route you have to use. So you will have to exercise the most of patience. Now, the green lines show you that it's quite manageable, it's passable, you can go through, but also the orange spots clearly tell you that there is a traffic buildup. Now, as you can see this area, because I am going to focus majorly on the Kawempe division, so areas of Chisasi, if you're coming in from Komamboga, Chebando, using all these routes to access the city center. Of course, that means you're going to use Bombo Road, you're going to use Wandegea, you could probably take a detour off to Nakasero Road to get to the city center. That area is just it's a dead zone, I should say that. Now, why you see this red, it's really terrible. If you're coming in from Komamboga, just to start from there, I can show you over here. It shows that it is predominant with all these orange spots and the red and maroon spots. Over here, the traffic is really intense. There is no any other option unless you're going to use a Chisasi road to access the city center. But I feel like this is a more ideal route. only that you will quite come across these spots here. Now there is a traffic build-up, as you see, these orange spots and then the red spot, and then eventually it results into a maroon spot. So a lot of patience is going to be exercised over there. And by the way, this stretch continues all the way until you get over here. Now you can see some green stretches here, clearly showing you that the road is a bit manageable. That's because there is a bit of traffic at the back, but of course when you're moving forward it goes on to clear. However, you can use this shortcut of Bahai Road. Now Bahai Road connects you to the Chisasi Road if you want to avoid all this traffic that will continue all the way to Chebando. Now this is a clear route because it's a shortcut, but what you need to know is that eventually when it connects you to Bukoto Chisasi, the situation is not any better. So I could say more or less you have not done anything, because when you skip this traffic right from Komamboga to Chebando, you will get into this traffic over here. This is Chisasi Bukoto Road. Now very many people out there try to use this route and connect to Chisota Road to get to the city center, and the stretch over here is quite long. Over here it's dotted red, orange. Traffic is crazy. There are areas that have traffic build-ups and there are areas that are really heavy with the traffic, so you may as well want to educate yourself about that and plan accordingly. But also other roads that still connect you to this, like Chisota Road, that will connect you to Bukoto Chisasi Road, is also very heavy with the traffic, as you can see over here. And as you're connecting, especially if you're connecting to the Bukoto Chisasi Road, this Chisota Road is very intense. Now I have told you over time that whether there rains or not, this route here is always heavy with the traffic, so you may want to start looking at plan B or any other alternative, because right here this traffic, I could say, is impassable. And if you decide to stick and hang around and be persistent, yes, just know that it has something to do with your time of arrival to wherever you're going, which clearly says that you could be delayed by quite even an hour or two, depending on the situation and how easy it will be for it to connect. Now the stretch still continues, the red stretch, all the way as you come to Bukoto. Right here there's a traffic build up here. Now this is a linking spot, it's a junction. Cars coming in from this upper side of Bukoto Road, cars coming in from this lower side, and also cars connecting in from this Bukoto Chisasi come to connect here as they all try to sort their way out to get to the city center. So that clearly explains all that traffic. Now if you're going to continue with the Waligo and the Chebando Road, of course it takes you all the way till Mulago. Now Mulago is you can see the green stretch, which shows you that it's a bit manageable, it's passable. But by the time you get here, you need to know that you have surpassed quite very many traffic heavy areas. So yes, the outskirts are not really looking so good this morning, and we kind of expected it because of the heavy rainfalls, but also because of Monday, because everyone is in one way or another trying to access the city center. And like I said, usually when it rains, the floods are there and they delay people, because of course there is a traffic stampede every single time there are flights out there. And I guess in this moment, this is where Mollen comes in to give us more details, especially on these floods, because I can already see floods over there. I don't know whether they're experiencing the same thing that we're experiencing right here.
Because we have seen that mostly developing countries do, get more effects of extreme weather. So whenever we get flooding, you find that most of the countries that can't, adapt to the way of it gets affected. So that is from South Asia. But what I can say about the flooding, especially in the cities here, Philo, is that most of it is attributed to our poor drainage. So once we clear that up, that's when we can see a smart city. Even when it rains, it doesn't have to be like whenever it rains, it creates flooding. So the flooding usually comes up when there is a little bit of disruptions with drainage. So that is why I still have to urge my friends there in KCCA, please. I think this is right about the time that you need to go through the city and clear up most of that drainage, because you're going to be having much more of those events, especially for the areas, the low-lying areas. These areas, like where you say you look into close to Clock Tower there.
towards Katwe, those areas will be getting flooded unless you really make sure that all the drainage channels to that area are cleared up, because it doesn't have to be like this. Now, you also find that there are going to be instances where we have a lot of rain, so obviously that will create flash flooding, not necessarily because of the drainage, but the ones at least you have, you know, all those clear channels, it means that the flooding will last a little while compared to if it is there. Then you won't have issues of traffic, you know, people getting stuck in town till late just because the flooding couldn't clear. So I think that is one thing we should also look into. But also you look into the report that did come out right yesterday showing how extreme weather is affecting developing countries, and this has been mostly mapped on Southeast Asia. Now when we talk about Southeast Asia, we're looking at countries like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, where there has been a lot of extreme weather, and Philippines at least has been known to be worst hit by those typhoons. Now typhoons are like the tropical cyclones that we have been talking about, mostly hitting Madagascar. They come in as, you know, low pressure systems develop and cause more destruction. And the report is saying that this could be looking into you know, shifting cities, but also sinking cities. Now what does that mean? It means that as the sea levels start to rise, because we have seen one of the effects of climate change is that we're going to be having sea level rise. Now, as the sea levels start to rise, then you have much more of flooding events coming into these cities, that is across Southeast Asia. And what has been looked at is that most likely close to 500 million people could be forced out of their homes due to the anticipation that we could be having more cities sinking by 2050. Now, a picture right there is just showing one of the areas that were submerged into water across the coast to, you know, Southeast Asia. Now, as the seas over there, of course, they're also bordering Indian Ocean, and we have also had to deal with the fact that Indian Ocean is rising in terms of temperatures. Now, it's warmer than it was before pre-industrial levels. So that means that as the ocean gets warmer, then we look into more of, you know, extreme events. That's when we start to talk about sea level rise. That's when we start to talk about, you know, floods and all these events. So what can we do is, as developing countries, most of the strategies are laid towards adaptation and mitigation. That means you have to hike into your infrastructure. You have to look into how to build up, you know, borders and keep yourself away from these waters, and you know, construct bridges and better roads. So that is all infrastructure, versus the developed countries where even when they have extreme weather events, at least there is, you know, enough money to fund into this infrastructure. So we compare ourselves to areas like, you know, Thailand, Vietnam, where they're also struggling, and same here with Uganda as well. So if we are looking at much more of these events, then we have to boost up our infrastructure. We have seen in the past where bridges have been swept away by rainwater, by floods. So what has to be done is that we now have to invest much more in constructing, you know, long-term bridges or even roads to you know, cope up with the environment. Because guess what? This is just going to be continuing and could go elsewhere. But also it's not helping that we are still warming up, because you know, the report of February did come out, and that was in combination of the data that came out from NOAA and NASA, indicating that we have more warming trends. Now from that picture where you see the dark colors and, you know, red, that is a part of the planet that is warming up, specifically the Arctic, that is showing that you know, we might be looking into even more melting snow across that area. That means that even the influence that the Arctic has had, including the planet, is also getting down as, you know, we look into a warming trend. And this is just going to fuel into what we're considering as global warming, meaning that we'll have much more of these events also trending across the world. But my picture of the day, actually one that did inspire me this morning, is coming in from Greenpeace. And guess what they're saying? Our planet is worth more than fossil fuel profits. So while we continue to invest in fossil fuels, we did have a lot of anticipation as Uganda. You know, we have oil now. We have one of the fastest warming pipelines across, you know, from Tanzania to Uganda. We are excited about it. But guess what? Is it worth, you know, destroying our planet? That's one coming in from Greenpeace this morning. I'll leave it to you to think about it while we invest in oil and all this, because it is still fossil fuels. And what fossil fuels are doing is just increase greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere, henceforth rising temperatures. Is it worth the profits? That's a question to you. But then we come back home here and tap into our satellites, look into the weather that is happening across the country this morning. Well, we did start off with those rains in the morning, and I can tell you one thing, that rainy system seems to still be there, and that was stretching from Lake Victoria into parts of Lake Victoria Basin, that is across Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, where you see those dark red towards green and blue colors. That is where we have the rains. Even as we speak, some areas have started to clear up, but it seems like that system is still there and mostly moving westwards, so bless yourselves up for rains, especially if you're anywhere across Masaka, Zimbabwe. That system is headed your way. Rengo there, Lyantonde, it looks like that will be headed there and bringing more rains for this morning. Now, although it is moving a little bit southwards, that means parts of Kampala have started to clear up right now as we speak, and also across Jinja we're seeing a clearing trend. So that means that at least much of your morning might be a little bit clear, but you know, we might also be having some of those rains stick around till the afternoon as more systems develop. Southwestern Uganda still across, you know, parts of Midwestern, across Fort Portal, Masindi there, across areas within Toroko, still cloudy conditions, but we do expect that system to also reach around that area by at least mid-morning, so you can expect that across southwestern Uganda as well. Mbarara, Bushenyi, that area already experiencing those cloudy conditions, but we do expect rains to come your way as the morning continues as well. Now, good news coming in across the Karamoja region. We do have those clouds that are starting to develop from those white colors that you see over there. Now, that means that that could be developing into rainy conditions, or at least something to keep those temperatures down, because it has been really warm over there. Now, still across northern Uganda, we are looking mostly into the central part, Gulu, Padel, Kitgum, also looking into sunny conditions for now, but we are seeing those clouds also extending over here. So that means that that area could be expecting a little bit of rain. Now, same goes for the West Nile, Arua, Yumbe, Nebi, that area already experiencing sunny intervals, and we could also be looking at possibilities of rainy conditions. Looks like at least today is promising. We might be looking into more rains across most areas within the country. But let's go ahead and take a look into our forecast for this morning, and that is coming in from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority. We start off with the eastern part of Lake Victoria, where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We are forecasting those isolated rains. Now, that is likely to start off with Pleasant 26. We already have some of those rains going on across a few areas, but we do expect that system to clear by afternoon. Eastern Uganda, where we do have Soroti, Katakwi, Moria and Kumi, we are forecasting isolated showers as well, starting off a little bit warm at 27, but we're also looking at a clearing trend later in the afternoon. Now, the eastern part of Central, we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke. We do have Nakasongola in that category as well. We do expect some of those rains to form a little bit later, but those will be over a few places, and we expect temperatures to be at 27 for this morning, but we could be looking at more rains developing in the afternoon, and that could at least keep temperatures a bit down. The central part of northern Uganda, Kitgum, Gulu, Adjumani, Padel, we are forecasting isolated showers, starting off with a warm 28, and also that system will continue into the afternoon, where most likely that will also help with cooling down temperatures. That area has been really dry. Now, back here in Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso, Mukono, we did start off with those rains, but also still in the forecast for a few areas, especially those close to Lake Victoria. Now also starting off with a cool 25 degrees centigrade while we're warming up, but 25 is for this morning, so you might still want to keep that sweater with you for this morning if you're anywhere around that area, or even likely to be around that place. Now, most likely northern Uganda and the northern sector as well, West Nile, Karamoja region, is likely to clear up by afternoon, but most areas within the southern sector will continue with most of those isolated showers now, especially to the western parts of Lake Victoria. Now, most of those rains are actually localized. You look at the fact that these have been enhanced by Lake Victoria. Now, most of the rain systems do form over the lake, and then that's when they spread into inland, and most likely that will be that is one of the things that will be fueling into our rains for this season, especially the southern sector. That's where we have much more of those benefits. Now, before other systems come in, especially for western Uganda, where we do have that effect of some of the winds moving from Congo towards the area. Then you have the Indian Ocean also kicking in to bring in a little bit of rains towards eastern Uganda, but at least most of those will be developing as the season continues. But for now, most of those rains that we're having are locally influenced, especially by Lake Victoria, and you look at the mountainous areas as well. And that is how we end up with most of those rainy conditions. So tell you what, just know that the rainy season is on, and most of the people that have been waiting for these rains, you can't start complaining now. This is the time you actually get into your gardens and be confident that the rains will be fueling in. I did see at least people coming on social media saying, yes, the forecast is performing and we're already starting to plant. So that's good news. Continue doing that. And for you, if you're still there waiting for the rain to stabilize, know the rains are already stable and you can start planting, especially for the southern part of the country. Well, I'll leave you at that. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up, and stick around for that. But also later, we'll be having sports highlight from Ruben, and Semakula Jagenda is already in the building, and he will be here to take you through Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. Wishing you a wonderful morning.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by
Tulantende ku program obulamu
was brought to you by
Just use MTN to make calls, send SMS, load airtime, buy bundles, or pay for MTN subscription services.
Everywhere you go, MTN. Your MBs are now bigger MBs only on MTN. When you load a daily bundle of 250 shillings, you no longer get 15 MBs, you get 30 MBs. For 500 shillings, you no longer get 40 MBs, you get 80 MBs. For 1,000 shillings, it's no longer 100 MBs, it's 180 MBs. Dial *150 *10 hash or use the My MTN app to load bigger daily bundles only on MTN.
MTN is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
COVID-19 is still here with us. As Professor Maggie Chigozi states, the time is now for all of us to get vaccinated.
When we have one person who's not vaccinated, it affects everybody around them, most especially the ones close to you. Keep your family safe. Anyone right now who's over 18 should go and get vaccinated.
Because of the new COVID-19 circulating variants like Omicron, it is very important for all of us to be fully vaccinated with 2 doses of the same vaccine type. It's only those getting Johnson & Johnson who receive only a single dose to be fully protected.
Even after vaccination, continue to adhere to all SOPs by wearing a mask properly, covering your mouth and nose, washing your hands regularly with soap and clean water, or using an alcohol-based sanitizer, maintaining physical distance of at least 2 meters from others, and avoiding crowds. Echa COVID-19, chija kugwa. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and partners.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
There have always been hard times, but these days are harder than most. Everyone is hurting. Everyone needs help. But some among us are asking the question, what if we didn't have to go through life's hardest moments alone? What if we were in it together? And just by asking that question, he changed my son's life. He created an online crowdfunding platform for Ugandans to help raise money for each other.
Thank you, and Nixon, for helping me.
This is a story of a regular Ugandan just like you, who harnessed the power of technology to provide a solution for us. How about you tell us your story? UG needs more of you. To share your story, visit airtel.co.ug/UG needs more of you, or call or SMS 162. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from Now Avenue in UBC Studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.